Let him burn!
Mike, thank you so much for coming on here. Obviously, you have been going hard in the paint on this because you have seen how this statute was weaponized by the Biden administration, and the left has absolutely no accountability here. So why don't we start from the get, and you can build off of what Harmeet said yesterday. How would you build out a case against these BLM terrorists and Don Lemon who stormed this church?
Well, I would use the Biden Justice Department playbook to build this case. Remember, under the Biden Justice Department with Attorney General Merrick Garland and Associate Attorney General Vanita Gupta and Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights Kristen Clark, 3 radicals, Lisa Monaco, the Deputy Attorney General, 4 radicals, they politicized and weaponized the Justice Department to go after their political enemies and to protect their allies. And there's not a more glaring example than the FACE Act, when they went after elderly Christians praying in abortion clinics. They went after priests. They went after Bevelyn Williams, a Black young mother of young kids, and threw her in prison for 41 months under the FACE Act, while they gave amnesty to people who attacked places of worship, Christian churches and synagogues. They certainly wouldn't have given amnesty if someone attacked a mosque, but they definitely gave amnesty to people who desecrated Catholic churches, Christian places of worship, like trans terrorists who went in there and destroyed churches. Well, we have a new sheriff in town with Attorney General Pam Bondi and her all-star team, including Harmeet Dillon. These are 2 bold and fearless warriors for the Constitution, and I talk to both of these women regularly, and they're not going to put up with this. There's not even close will they put up with this. You're going to see indictments coming out of the Justice Department under 18 USC 248, which is a FACE Act violation, and 18 USC Section 241, conspiracy against rights. And that's exactly what the Biden Justice Department did to Christians praying at abortion clinics. There's no question. There is no question what Don Lemon and his co-conspirators did violated the FACE Act, and there's no question it violated conspiracy against rights, the Klan statute. I mean, think about what they did. We are now in a country where these Democrat governors, these Democrat mayors are fighting the federal governments. They're fighting federal law enforcement on immigration. That is insurrection, right? That is seditious conspiracy, textbook insurrection, textbook seditious conspiracy. We now have Confederate governors in America, like Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. We have a Confederate mayor with Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry, and now we have their Klan foot soldiers like Don Lemon, who is rounding up agitators to go harass, intimidate, threaten, disrupt Christians during the middle of their Sunday church services. This is a red line. And I would say to Don Lemon, you're not a journalist. You are an agitator. Your own videos you posted show that you're an agitator, because you're so stupid that you would actually post the most incriminating videos possible. You're so stupid that you can't keep your mouth shut because you're this DEI reporter who the only reason you're there is because you're a DEI reporter. If you were a white man, you would be homeless. You might be homeless after you go to prison, but now you think that you're sanctimonious and you're righteous and you're going to go disrupt Christian services. Even if you are a reporter, Don Lemon, you would still go to prison for this because you do not have a license to break the law. You do not have a license to violate the FACE Act. You do not have a right to conspire with your other Klan members and go shut down Christian church services. That's going to put you in prison, buddy. And Harmeet Dillon and Pam Bondi, they're not going to have any sympathy for your argument that you're a gay black man or whatever the hell you said. Who cares? You're going to be a prize in prison.
So this is a remarkable clip from yesterday where Harmeet Dillon said, we're going to use enhancements here, like the Biden administration did, using this Klan Act that says you're not allowed to conspire to steal the rights of your fellow Americans. Can you talk us through that, Mike? A lot of people were laughing this off. Don Lemon laughed this off on his little podcast with that psychotic SSRI wine mom. Who really does. I mean, I heard this. I can't get it out of my head. She looks like she's an alien in a ill-fitting skin suit, and like a bad exoskeleton, like not like the Terminator type. But anyway, this is totally aside, and that's totally petty and bitchy.
No.
What I'm saying is,
isn't that's Jennifer Welch, right? Isn't that?
Yes, that's correct.
Isn't that a trans woman? You have a trans woman, and then you have. And then you have Don. Yeah, that's.
I don't know. I don't know anything. I don't want to ever know anything about this lady. I don't know why I have to talk about this lady so much, but she's such an unhinged sociopath that, and I saw this clip and I'm like, of course this is where Don Lemon goes in order to give his sob story. And Don goes there, Mike. Don goes there and goes, I went to the church because they're white people. And what that did was it fell right into the trap that Harmeet Dillon was talking about on my show just an hour earlier. And she said, well, we're going to explore whether there's a racial component here. Like, were they trying to attack white people? And here it goes, Don Lemon, dumb, like just as dumb, as stupid as you could be, walks right on Jennifer Welch's show and says, yes, I went there to attack white people. So can you please unpack that for me? Sorry for the long answer, a long question. Can you unpack that for me, Mike? Like, how would the KKK Act work here? How would you make this a racial hate crime? I mean, could that possibly happen?
So when Don Lemon went on Dylan Mulvaney's grandfather's show with Jennifer Welch there, then they again, Ben, you're not taking my bait on this, which is hilarious. But what's so crazy is Don Lemon is so stupid.
Yes.
He's going on these shows and he's saying out loud his criminal intent when he's doing these things. So he is building a slam dunk case against himself for a FACE Act violation, for a conspiracy against rights. And not only is this criminal conspiracy against rights targeting Christians, he's also targeting white people. So you can actually charge him twice under 18 USC section 241, one for conspiring to violate the civil rights of Christians, and then another charge for conspiring to violate the civil rights for white people. This guy is in deep trouble. And Don Lemon thinks that he's going to go play the race card and the gay card and whatever other card he has to get out of this. It's not going to fly with Pam Bondi or Harmeet Dillon. They're not pushovers. This is not the Trump. This is not Trump 1 Justice Department. These are actually bold and fearless warriors who are running the Justice Department this time.
Yes, we've been talking with them. And is that ever true? All of the black pillars and all of the doomers are like, well, nothing ever happens. Trust me, something's going to happen. Like, you have that directly from me, and you can hold me accountable. But I'm telling you, we've been having a lot of offline conversations. Like, things are going, they're not going to just roll over on this.
Can I just say this to the online people who are constantly attacking Pam Bondi? Let her do her job. This woman has gone in there. She's fired a ton of people in Maine Justice. She's fired a ton of people in the FBI. She fires prosecutors regularly in the U.S. Attorney's Office. She brings cases constantly. She opens investigations constantly. People constantly are biting at her heels, little chihuahuas, conservative online chihuahuas, biting at her heels. Let her do her job. She's doing her job very well, and you're going to see results. I'm sorry, you can't just tweet and have an indictment. That's just not how it works in the Justice Department. That may be how it works on Twitter, but that's not how it works in the real world.
Mike, would you please, since it made so much news and was the number one clip on X and has been played nonstop all across the internet yesterday, Could you please unpack for us this KKK law? And that like shocked people. It spawned a lot of memes, and it made people say, wow, this is exactly what I voted for, charging BLM with the KKK law. How would that work, Mike?
The only thing that would have been better is if they did it on MLK Day. But we couldn't get it done because the grand jury is not working on a federal holiday. Otherwise, that would have been the icing on the cake. Look, Democrats are very familiar with 18 USC Section 241, conspiracy against rights, the Klan statute, because that's the charge they brought against President Trump with Jack Smith in Washington, D.C., one of the 4 felony charges in Washington, D.C. against President Trump for the non-crime of objecting to a presidential election, which is allowed by the Electoral Count Act of 1887 and the First Amendment. Again, we've said this on your show for almost 4 years. This is why Hillary Clinton did not go to prison for objecting to President Trump's win the first time, right? Or Democrats didn't go to prison for objecting in 1968, 2000, and 2004. You don't see Al Gore and John Kerry in prison for objecting to George W. Bush's wins. And so this is the statute that the Democrats actually used to go after President Trump for objecting to a presidential election. This is a post-Civil War statute to target people who are conspiring to violate the civil rights of the freed slaves and other Americans, right? And so if you are a governor, if you are a mayor, even if you are a private citizen like Don Lemon, and you're organizing agitators to go harass Christians in church or people because of their race, and Don Lemon did both of those things on Sunday, and he's stupid enough to admit it on TV repeatedly, that is textbook conspiracy against rights. That's the whole point of conspiracy against rights, is so you don't have Klan members going harassing, lynching, threatening people because of their religious beliefs or their race. That's exactly what Don Lemon did. And that's precisely why Don Lemon must be indicted by a federal grand jury and put on federal trial. And if they find them guilty, and I don't know how they can't, after the dumbass actually admitted to his crime repeatedly on TV, then Don Lemon needs to go to federal prison.
So, Mike, many would say, hey, to your last point, well, you're going to have some federal lib judge that's going to throw this out. You're going to get indictments, and then some liberal in Minneapolis appointed by Obama or Biden, Marxist, probably getting money from the Somali daycares, is just going to say no. How do you fight that?
How do you insult these leering centers like you call them Somali daycares? These are the finest leering centers in America, Ben Johnson. How dare you?
You're quite the leerer yourself, Mike.
I would say this. Well, first of all, they would appeal that to the Eighth Circuit and the Supreme Court. There's no chance that a liberal judge is going to be able to stop an indictment against Don Lemon for what he did. I mean, they'll temporarily try to stop it if they try to throw it out, but it will get appealed and this indictment will happen. But I want Don Lemon to go through this process. I want the process to be the punishment. And, these journalists out there who are going to say that the Trump administration is now arresting journalists and now arresting Black journalists and gay journalists or whatever the hell they're going to say, just watch the videos and just watch what Don Lemon said after he filmed the videos, after he knew that he could be under federal investigation, and that the dumbass goes on and admits his criminal liability repeatedly. It's a slam dunk case. If he would have just kept his mouth shut, he still committed a crime, but he probably would have gotten away with it. There's no chance he's going to get away with it now because he's too stupid to keep his mouth shut.
Okay, so final question for you, Mike, on this. What about the argument? I have a First Amendment right too. You saw Don Lemon say that to the pastor up front of the church, saying, well, I have a First Amendment right, and Jesus would be in favor of my First Amendment right because I also have freedom of speech and assembly, and that's why we can storm your church. He said it right here. That's why we can storm your church, and I can go up and threaten your parishioners. I can threaten your congregants. I can scare the hell out of these little kids. Don Lemon admitted that he is doing it in order to make them uncomfortable and terrorize the kid. That's what he said. I wanted to create trauma in the children. Don Lemon says it on his live stream, and he's using journalism and the First Amendment as a shield. Will that hold up in court?
Not at all. And you do not have a First Amendment right to trespass You do not have a First Amendment right to disrupt a church service. Those are crimes, and the latter is a serious federal crime, a series of serious federal crimes. It's a FACE Act violation under 18 USC Section 248, and it's conspiracy against rights under 18 USC Section 241. Church services are not public forums. This is not, a free speech zone and a public park where you can go debate other lunatics, homeless people, or whoever Don Lemon wants to go debate. This is a church service. Just imagine if Mike Davis went into a mosque and did what Don Lemon did, or Mike Davis with my MAGA hat went into a black church and did what Don Lemon did. There would be righteous outrage on the left. There should be outrage, right? But of course, there's not going to be outrage here because this is a gay, black, mentally disabled man going into a Christian church, a white Christian church. And so they don't care. They actually support it. So look, again, Don Lemon's antics, criminal antics, may have flown in the last Trump administration when we had pussies running the Justice Department. That's not going to happen with Pam Bondi and Harmeet Dillon because they are bold and fearless warriors, and there will be justice. And I imagine it's going to happen this week.
Yeah, I mean, it just struck me when I was talking with Harmeet. There were a lot of people, some of them I consider friends, who tried to say, "Yo, I was filming during January 6th, right? And I like, look, I'm a journalist. Protect me." Steve Baker's a pretty famous one at the Blaze, and they came after him. They came after him with a vengeance. And I know it's not apples to apples. I'm well aware they're very different things. But that whole the Biden administration was perfectly happy to bulldoze the whole I'm an independent journalist thing, on January 6th.
Well, and here's where it's apples to apples. You look at Bevelyn Williams, a young black mother of young black kids who the Biden Justice Department sent to prison for 41 months for praying in an abortion clinic. They sent many elderly people in Washington, D.C. to federal prison for many years, including under the FACE Act and conspiracy against rights. I think they did the same thing in Michigan in the Biden Justice Department. They had no problem throwing elderly Christians in prison, a young black mother in prison. They had no problem going after journalists constantly if they were disfavored journalists. Here, Don Lemon, even if he were acting as a journalist, you can't trespass. You can't disrupt church services. Don Lemon went up to the pulpit and harassed and disrupt the pastor during the middle of the service. You can't get more of a FACE Act violation than that, other than maybe burning down the damn church.
There it is, right on your screen. Bevelyn Williams, sentenced to 3 years and 5 months for praying outside of a Planned Parenthood in New York City. There you go. Jeez. Look at that.
Yeah, Democrats didn't care about this black woman because it doesn't fit their narrative, because Democrats actually do not give a damn about race or gender or transgender. They're Marxist, and they want their foot soldiers. And if you have Marxist black women, those are perfect foot soldiers, and they'll go to the mat for them. But if it's a Christian conservative woman like Bevelyn Williams, they'll throw her in prison for 41 months.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Mike Davis, the man who, we called him the Viceroy for months in the lead up to President Trump installing his team. And I think that Mike is actually the Viceroy. I think he just does it behind the scenes. It's not like he's out with the feathery hats and the pomp and the circumstance and the golden scepter. He's like the secret Viceroy behind the scenes.
We weren't controversial enough. We weren't controversial enough on this hit, Ben. We want to be more. Yes.
That's exactly right.
We need more controversy. Calling Jennifer Welch a dude is not going to make enough headlines. We're going to put the Viceroy out there. This is great.
It would just work. Mike, we just wanted an excuse to put up this AI. We know this is exactly what you change into the moment that you get off these hits.
Yes.
One day you can do the hit in your true form. We look forward to it. Embrace your true self, Mike Davis. Yeah, you can embrace Mike Davis by following him here. 500,000 followers Mike has on X. And you know him, ladies and gentlemen, the Viceroy, Scorched Earth. Thank you, Mike. God bless you.
Thank you.